Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How you doing, Laura? John, how you doing?
Good, real good.
Awesome. Happy Monday.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are here today after getting the Super Bowl flu. I was surprised.
Yeah, I may be a victim of it too. So
I know,
it
right?
was a
It's
good
it's a
Super Bowl
real
though.
thing.
It
It's
is.
a real thing. Well, good to see y'all. We got a good crowd today. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm gonna keep letting people in here, but thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. So Monday after Super Bowl, how'd y'all do on your Super Bowl? All the Bay Area people are like, it was okay, right? Desiree, how you doing? Good to see you. Um, I personally didn't really care Kansas City or 49ers, honestly, but I was in a football pool that was $250 per square. And I had two squares. So two squares out of 100 squares. And they hit the touchdown. And all I needed was that extra kick. Do you remember the one kick that was blocked in the Super Bowl? That was a $4,000 block for Randy Byrd personally. I was counting my money. I was up dancing. I was like, yeah, all they need to do is make the field goal. And it was like 4 and 9 or whatever the numbers were. And I literally, it was like in slow motion. That guy blocked that kick. And I was like, seriously? 4 grand. But it was all good. It might have been more than that because it was a $25,000 pool. There was only like 6 or 7 people that won it. So mathematically, whatever that is. Anyway, I'm not bitter about it at all. Glad to be here today. Um, I was thinking about the content for day, and I want to make sure we leave enough for Q&A because there's a lot going on in this market that some of you may have immediate needs about or questions about or want a little direction about. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to get into how can we maximize our listings with posting opportunities, because it's really, there's so much opportunity available to you when you get 1 or 2 or 3 listings to leverage those into more. So that's going to be my topic today. But before we get started with that, anybody have any questions, anything going on in their market that they want to ask? I can give some coaching dialogue. I can help with. Taylor. Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to leave it up to you whether you think this is relevant.
Okay.
Had a client that I was talking to refer me to somebody else. I called this person, and was like, "Hey, how's it going? Blah blah blah. Do you have an agent? Are you committed to that agent?" They're like, "No, I'm open to hearing what you've got, like what you could bring, that type of thing." At what point is it taking somebody else's client? Are you just being competitive? Is it against the code of ethics to do that with a buyer? Just kind of looking for some direction a little bit.
Such a great question. And we just had a long dialogue about this in different context, but specifically about integrity and doing the right thing and all that. So it's fresh on the top of my head. So number one, is the other agent aligned with you in your company?
No.
Okay. That's always the first place I want to go. I want to see if there's any kind of alignment, either culturally or some kind of expectation with the other agent in an office or even in my company, right? I'm EXP, not everybody is, but if it's an EXP agent in town, I want to give an extra layer of professionalism to that and really integrity to that.
Okay.
But the reality is this, unless if there's in the absence of an agreement, a buyer broker agreement, buyer representation agreement, whatever you want to call it, and or on a selling, the same thing, right? If there's an absence of any kind of agreement, it's open, meaning that it's a competitive environment and you've got to put your best foot forward to try and take advantage of that opportunity, right? So number one,
Right.
you were referred, so the people automatically have a know, like, and trust you elevation, as opposed to calling you out of the phone book or you door knocking, right? The fact that you were referred, I would be leaning on that relationship more and more.
Okay.
And honestly, may the best man or woman win when it comes to buyers and sellers. I don't believe that there's many situations to where you want to, when you're going to be out of integrity and trying to explain your value proposition, why you're better fitted for the job, why you're better fitted to help them, buy them, sell them, whatever it may be.
Okay.
Does that help you a little bit?
Yeah, tons. It does. Because I was
So-
thinking I was way out of line. And
No.
I don't want to be that agent, don't want to be anywhere near that. So just wanted to,
Yeah, we
you know,
don't
stay.
listen. We don't want to be slippery salespeople. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying it's a competitive environment. And if you're going to a listing and there's 3 other agents there, that's a normal competitive environment. Hopefully there's not 10 agents there, because then it gets complicated.
Right.
But the only caveat to this that I'll say is if I ask them, and I usually do, hey, you know, are you talking to other agents? Awesome. Who are they? Oh, it's Ray all over at Coldwell Banker. Ray's a good guy. I don't know much about Ray, but I've heard he's a nice guy. Who else? I'm talking to Laura Justice. Laura Justice at EXP. Yes. Laura's amazing. How long have you been meeting, talking to her? Have you already met with her? Do you guys have anything signed?
Okay.
Is there anything specifically that maybe was missing from that I can maybe answer a question for?
Okay.
And I may even go back to Laura and say, hey, we're talking to the same seller, and they mentioned your name. And I basically said, you're great, you're awesome, but I'm fighting for the listing as well, or the buyer, or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
Sorry, Lawrence is trying to come in like 3 or 4 times. It won't let him in, but I keep trying. You follow
Okay.
what I'm saying with that?
Yep. 100%.
I'm 100% for leading with integrity, but you really got to ask questions to get to the point to where you know if you're in integrity or not. And the way I view it is like if John and I were on the same thing, and then John happened to, you know, see a post I did or something, I have 100% integrity around how I handled it for John.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you know, in your belly, you know, in your stomach, when you're like, oh man, this is a really good listing that's on my block. But they told me that they're really already working with Laura, and I'm trying to go around that or through it or over it.
Right. Yeah.
You might have the legal prerogative to do so, but it may be out of integrity for you.
Okay. That sounds good.
So
Thank you,
again,
sir.
when we talk buyers and sellers, that's different than me trying to bring an agent into my office or bring an agent into my, everybody's interviewing for that position. Buyers and sellers are similar, but then again, who's going to give them the best service? And you have to put your best foot forward to try and win that opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I believe you could do that with great integrity. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor. Patrick. Yes, sir.
Hey, Randy, would you close on a buyer broker with that same buyer because you're afraid they would then end up?
One more time.
Would you close on a buyer broker agreement with that buyer, being that you're already, they may be working with you and that other person going forward? and you
Yeah,
don't-
I likely wouldn't move forward in the relationship without that next step, especially if it sounds like they're talking to 2 or 3 or whatever other agents. And I mean, we could have a dialogue around that just to have an example of that. But again, I would lead with transparency and integrity. I'd say, hey, Patrick, it's fair to say you're talking to 2 or 3 other agents as well. And how are you doing in that process of determining who's the best fit for you? Obviously, we're talking now, but in the other agents, does it feel like it might be integral for us to move forward to the next step? Or would you like more time to evaluate? Do you owe a conversation, or did you commit to anybody else in a way that makes you feel maybe, to keep you in the highest level of integrity?
You're asking a question to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm just going with whatever agent brings me the house I'm looking for. We're in short inventory right now. It seems
Right.
I can't find a house, and if you bring it to me, I'll work
Okay.
with it.
So you're really not interested in a relationship. You're looking for a result. Is that accurate?
Correct. The people I've been working with so far haven't gotten it for me.
Yeah. And have you signed any agreements with those other
No,
agents?
Nothing.
That might be why. May I
Yeah.
explain?
Yeah, please do.
It sounds like, Patrick, that I think you're in your right to keep it open to see whoever brings me the best deal, best offer, or anything. But you're really dating 6 other people rather than being married to one.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is you don't have anybody you're really deeply committed to. Is that accurate?
Correct.
It might be working against you.
Okay.
So for you to work with me, I need to know that we're on the same exact place. And that
Mhm.
way I can meet and match your expectations. I want to exceed them. But if you're working with 5 or 6 other agents, although it sounds great in an idea, I think that could be part of the challenge you're having. So what I'd like to propose for me is to sign a mutually exclusive relationship agreement between you and I, buyer broker agreement. There's a lot of different names for it.
Mhm.
But this will be until you're unhappy with me. I mean, I'm going to go work for it, and you're my only buyer client now. I mean, you're the only one I have this relationship with directly, you and I. Okay.
Okay.
And then I'd explain the benefits of this, why they would benefit you. And then I'd find out if they're open to that. And if they're not open to that, then it tells you something that you may not want to know, but at least you have the opportunity not to be let down. Right.
Mhm.
And so similar to showing open houses now, like in Washington, you have to have a buyer broker agreement even to show them an open house. And so it could be a singular buyer representation agreement for that moment, and then it expires. But think about that. A brand new person you've never met, you're making them sign a document.
They have to sign up to go through an open house in Washington now?
In Washington, any contact with the buyer has to be represented in an agreement.
That's loopy.
Mm-hmm. By the way, it's coming to Oregon. It's in Washington now. Started
Yes.
on January 1st law. It's gonna trickle over to Oregon and probably Idaho, and then we'll see what happens from there. I believe it'll be in California only because it's one of the most litigious states, but
Mhm.
that's a real thing.
Hmm.
Yes, sir. Kenny, I think you had your hand up.
Randy, kind of on that same subject that we've been on as far as like other agents working with
Yeah.
other buyers and sellers. Actually, I just only mentioned this because it might help somebody down the road here. I actually got a call, this is probably back in October now, from a guy who says, "Hey, I got recommended to you by a mutual friend, and I hear you're doing a good business down there. I'd like to talk to you about selling my house." I'm like, "Okay, cool. We can definitely do that." He goes, "Problem is, right, I have an agent right now, and I'm not happy with him." So, okay, well, have you talked to him and let him know, what you're unhappy with, but try to work it out with him first? He goes, "Yeah, I have, and still not getting any results." And ended up being an EXP agent. So I did. So I said, "Look, I want you to go back to him one more time and try to work it out. I want you to try to figure out what's going on." And it didn't work out. So I said, "Before I take this listing, I want to call your agent." So I called him up, had about a good 20-minute conversation with him. They just bumped heads. It just wasn't going to work out personally. I just said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm not prospecting your clients. He was recommended to me. I'm going to take this listing. If you decide to, take the cancellation, I know you have some time left on the contract, but if you cancel it, I'm going to take care of your guy." And he was like, "Okay, cool. I appreciate you calling me, but at the same time, I'm kind of done with him anyways." So
I love it.
Yeah.
So difficult conversation, right, Kenny? Not super
Yeah.
easy.
no,
Feel good about it afterwards, though.
100%.
100%. See, that's where I want us to be is 100%, right? I know when I put my 100% forward, and then it doesn't matter what happens. They can spin out of control. They can do all their things. I can't control that.
Right.
Right. But I think that was a perfect example of how it can be handled correctly. And you might have given a little more effort because they were in a company that you're in, which I would want to see. I agree with that. Right.
Mhm.
Or sometimes it's like, oh, you're with the other company, come on. There's a little bit of that competitive thing that happens with us. But I really love the example that you used because you did all the right things. Right.
Sure.
Now, let me ask you, Kenny, ask you a question. What about if he asked for a 25% referral fee or a 50% referral fee?
That's a good question.
What would you say?
I would be open to it,
Fair. Okay, cool.
especially being somebody in the same family. I would definitely be, receptive to it.
I think that's open. I probably wouldn't be unless there was unless that lead came from him. Like he said, "Hey, I'm having a problem. I want to have you take this over," or something like that. I don't think I owe him anything, but if he asked, I'd be open to have the conversation. I'd be, "Hey, let's talk about that conversation. Let's talk about what would make you feel good, what would make you whole, and what you feel like my obligation to this as well."
Especially if his marketing looked good from the get-go, which unfortunately it wasn't
That
great.
relationship, you might get all the photos, you might get all the virtual tour, you might have
Exactly. If he was going to
an
give that to
ally
me, yeah.
in this, right?
Yeah,
And
for
by
sure.
the way, the bigger thing is you might be a hero to the seller, and it could go either way, right? The seller could be say, I don't want that SOB to get nothing.
Well,
It's
we're
possible.
closing that deal tomorrow, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's possible. I love it. I think that's great dialogue. I don't know what it is about today, but it's been like this all day. We're talking about, how to navigate this market with integrity and how to navigate conversations with expectation, integrity, and all these things. So it's like been 2 hours that we've been in this dialogue. So it's pretty interesting that it flowed over into this call. Pretty cool. So let's talk about listing marketing for a minute. The greatest opportunity right now is listings, right? And poor Lawrence is trying to come in 1,000 times, and I keep letting him in, but it won't work. So I don't know what's wrong with poor Lawrence, but anybody knows Lawrence McKnight, tell him I'm sorry. I've tried 100 times. So when you think about listings, right? Listings are one of the greatest opportunities right now because low inventory. There's a significant amount of listing need. So if you have a listing, you could actually, I almost want to share my screen because he's in like 12 times now. He must have 12 cell phones and computers. He's trying to get in from everywhere. So listings are they're gold right now, right? Listings are gold. If you control listing, it's priced correctly, it's very popular. You'll get a lot of calls, a lot of opportunities, all those things. The greatest way to expose that listing for more listings is what? What would you say? Just throw out a couple things that you think would be a great opportunity for you to expose the listing to get more listings.
Open house.
Open house is one. I agree. I'm gonna
Just listed
type,
cards,
I'm gonna type some stuff in. So open house, I agree. What else?
just listed,
Just listed exactly how many?
100 at least.
100 at least. Okay.
Door knocking, open houses.
Yeah, there's the coach coming out.
Sorry, I'm going to be quiet now and everybody else.
No, I don't want you to. Please go. Door knocking.
Social media videos.
Exactly. What else?
Circle dialing.
Circle dialing. Awesome. I love it. What else? Boosting. You guys heard of boosting through KV Core, through your sites? It will do it social media, but it boosts it on purpose for you. So boosting is a big one.
I like offering the property to any of my hot buyer leads, anybody in my existing database before it lists, even if it won't match, but just
okay. So pre-market, sometimes called a pocket, but in this case, we'll say pre-market, pre-market email, right? To database. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I like it. What else? What about to agents? Is there any marketing opportunity to agents?
For more listings, how would that work?
Interesting. I don't know. Think about that for a minute.
I guess if they have one that's coming off the market and they want to refer it to you, like the scenario that Kenny was just saying.
Yeah, it's a good point. I just brought it up. I'm not attached to it.
It could be attraction later on down the line.
Here's where I think the value is. I have a couple particular agents that email me constantly with their new listings and stuff. They're top of mind. They're in the luxury space. And if I had a client that was just out of my area, I would use them. So it might be future business just by the nature of you being the forward-facing component of this, but not going to give it a lot more attention, but I just want your brains kind of opening up a little bit. So where else? What's another way to do it that you can leverage into more listings?
Just your sign.
Your signage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Sign calls.
Okay. What else?
Sending it to your sphere.
Yep. I think we kind of covered that pre-market email to the database, kind of the same thing. So now that we have those, you see the chats, we got 7 or 8 great items. What do you think the number one thing in there? And I don't think there's a wrong answer. I'm just asking. What do you think the number one thing in there is?
Hey,
I would say it's just listed postcards personally.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me right. That's just my personal, right? Some might have a more successful door knocking, but I think social media can overcome all of that. And the reason is because the amount of eyeballs you can get on it far exceeds 100, 200. I send out 500 postcards. That's, it's about 300 to 500 bucks. But that listing is so powerful for future listings now. I used to do 100 postcards. It was on auto dial. It just, as soon as I took a listing, it sent 100 postcards. We sent 1,000 out on our last listing, 1,000 postcards. It cost me 576 bucks. But why did I do that? Because the market is crying for listings. The market is really in desperate need of active inventory. So my message was, hey, just listed, find out how we can get your home to market and sell it very quickly for top dollar, whatever it may be, right? So for me, I've evaluated the market and I've kind of upped my game a little bit on the just listed postcards. That's a very leverageable item. It's equity of money, right? You have to spend money to do that particular thing. Could you door knock? Yes, you could. Could you do social media very inexpensively? Yes. Circle dialing is another inexpensive opportunity for you, right? It's just trading time for money, or trading time for money, kind of. But there's equity posture, and then there's sweat equity, right? So we got check equity and sweat equity. If you have unlimited funds like John, and you just have a massive big business in El Paso, Texas, if you need anything, he's the guy. Then you might want to check equity it to get away from taking some of your valuable time away. But if you're newer in the business, or if you're in a posture where you've got maybe one listing, imagine just spending a week on the phone calling neighbors, circle dialing, letting them know about either the new listing, pick your neighbor, pick somebody for your neighborhood, or invite them to an open house, or let them know about an open house. All these things are value propositions instead of sell items. So it's the difference between selling something or having something that you want versus contribution. Completely different. Hey, Laura, are you interested in a new listing we have? Maybe you can help me with a buyer. I'd appreciate all that. That is kind of an ask, and it's okay. But when you come from a place of contribution, hey, Laura, I just want to let you know, listed a new home down the street from you. Might have a bit of traffic if you have kids and stuff. Just Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 3, watch out for traffic. And, if people park in your driveway, we usually have a pretty good turnout. Let me know so we can address that. I'll drop my card off to you personally. And, we care. We want to do the right thing for the neighborhood and your neighbors. And so it's okay to ask for business from that, but it could be valuable coming from a place of contribution. Okay. So social media, I think, is probably one of the strongest opportunities, because number one, you have your circle of friends, plus they're seeing you list. This is a pet peeve. Don't take this wrong. I'm kind of sick of hearing all these just pended. My best friend just pended their house with me. It just seems self-serving. And I'm not saying that it's bad if you're doing that, and I'm not dogging on you. It could have value, but to me, closing an escrow is a celebration, but pending an escrow is all about you. It's not serving the buyer. It's not serving the seller. It's just about you. So it could be a marketing strategy for you. Personal pet peeve. That's all personal, right? So if you're doing it, don't be offended. I'm okay. Patrick, yes.
I've got a better reaction if I just tell a story. So if we're pending, but we just fought through 15 offers, and these people have been looking forever, and we had to go through XYZ to get them in a situation, and it's great. They're in contract now, and the seller's even going to pay their closing costs. And
I agree with that.
It's like saying I'm pending, but also just talking to the person instead.
I agree. How can you add that as a value proposition?
Well, I think I'm showing value by explaining what we just did to get through all of that. And the assumption would be that if they could work with me, I could do the same for them.
I agree. So you did that for them. What would the value be of other people seeing that on social media? You're onto something powerful here.
I guess creating a brand for myself, that I'm not gonna hustle
that you're
for
gritty, that you're
Right.
not going to go away, that you're willing to do the extra amount of work.
explaining the difficulty that it would take to get where they want to go, but that it is possible.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden that levels it to a possibility of the other agent or the other buyers and sellers that are watching the post, right? It's not self-serving, in my opinion.
Mhm.
You're coming from a place of, and what did you say the key points were? 12 offers or something?
I mean, it could be whatever. I mean, genuinely, it could be these, we're working with some clients that had to work through credit stuff to get to where they're going, and
Yeah.
work with our awesome lender, Kristen Cooper at Borrow Smart, and she helped
Yeah.
process. It took us 8 months, but now they're happy and we're moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. And so number one, it's talking about the stickiness, how long you worked with that client. That could be a value proposition, right? The fact that you had to beat out 12 other offers is a strategy proposition through negotiating. All these things are now not self-serving. They're serving the client, or they're serving the public listening to it.
And you can do it in reverse with the seller too. Is that, we
100%.
properly staged it to start, and we were able to get 10, 5 offers came in. We fought through and got the best one in and negotiated the whole way along. And now they're
100%.
happily moving to Idaho or whatever they're doing.
Right. No, I love it. And so when we think about social media, many times it could be self-serving, and it's not a bad thing. It's your social media. But if you're really trying to attract somebody, what was the decision the seller had to make to choose you? Right. One thing I thought and I'm role playing, one thing that I thought would be valuable is Desiree and I met 4 or 5 times about listing her homes. And the things that were important to her were these: A, B, C, D. And we were able to come in and we were able to satisfy A by doing this, satisfy B by doing this, right? They didn't have a place to move to, so they needed a rent back. So we made that a mandatory requirement of offers. You follow where I'm going with this? So now you're laying out the value proposition of what you're doing along the way. And hopefully this just opening a little bit of an idea for you, as something in your brain saying, hey, that's something I didn't think about. That's an opportunity for me, right? A guaranteed sell is a value proposition. We guarantee your home sold in 90 days or you pay nothing, right? That's a pretty popular, through the big teams, it's a pretty popular statement, right? They'll buy it themselves and so on. Laura, yes, ma'am.
It's making me think of like what we do and how we can succeed is just simply creating a problem or figuring out what the buyer or seller's problems are, and then coming up with a solution. So what I like to do is when you're thinking about what you're going to post on social media, or having that conversation, Patrick, with the buyer's agent or the buyer that had another agent, finding out what their specific problems are, and then showing them how you are the solution. And then obviously with that scenario, it was you're the solution. And the reason is because they're going to sign an agreement with you. But when we're putting stuff on social media, people don't care that we are so great. They don't, but they do care that we can solve their problem. So I just wanted to add that.
So true, Laura. Thank you for sharing that. So true. And I think this can become our superpower easily as well, right? Because it's telling the story of ultimately your brand. Your brand is not EXP, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Sotheby's. That's not your brand. Your brand is you personally, and then what is your value proposition within that brand? The brand's a conduit, right? People don't go into the offices anymore and ask for an agent. I don't even know the last time that's ever happened. It's very rare, and if it does happen, it's in a high traffic area of, there's a lot of times that argument can be made, but it's rare. Would you agree? So now what's the next, as we wrap up the call, what's the next important function of you in that brand? Is Google yourself. This may be a scary one, but go Google yourself and see what comes up. And if you don't have a Google business page, make one. It could be your home address. It could be an office address. It could be something else. You could put, like in our companies, a virtual company. So it's 222 Commerce Avenue in Salem. It's not as big as my bedroom office here, but it's the headquarters of EXP in Salem. So that could be the address. But think about Google business and then getting reviews. Google reviews are totally different than Zillow reviews. Zillow reviews are valuable, but they have to transact with you to do a Zillow review. Friends and other people aren't allowed to do them. You could do them if they've shown you properties and things, but particularly Google business listings, unlimited reviews, and that is a big deal. So make sure you're putting the postings of that there. Make sure you're doing all those things that are going to lead to that and increase your Google profile 5-star reviews. And just in closing, I ask people just like this. I go, hey, Laura, I have a Google business page. I'd love for you to do a review. There's like 2 or 3 questions that will have different levels of stars. Can you do me a favor? Make sure you do 5 stars on every single one. And if I haven't earned that, let me know so I can do whatever's needed to raise the bar up to a 5-star, because it's a big deal. And people do it, you know, inadvertently and accidental. Oh, yeah, he's a 5 in this, and he didn't show me many houses. That's a 3. They're not doing it to be hurtful, but it's hurtful to your reviews. So I've always set the expectation. I want 5 stars in all. And if I didn't earn that, I'll earn it before you do it. What can I do to earn that? And people go, oh, no, you've earned it. It's 5 stars, right? But you have to ask the questions. You can't just send that link out and kind of hope that they do well, right? Because they'll mistakenly and accidentally maybe do something that's a little more real for them. All right, everybody. So think about this as you're moving forward. If you have a listing, take a look at that listing from the sense of Google. Google it, Google the address, see what pops up, see how you're doing on that marketing. Zillow is free for you. You don't have to be Premier Agent. Zillow's free. Make sure your profile is correct. Make sure all your cells are in there. Make sure you have reviews if you can. But honestly, Google business profiles and LSA ads, listing service ads, are overtaking Zillow in terms of the importance of those reviews. So if you haven't done it lately, leave the call, go Google yourself, and then see how you look. All right. You don't have to share it back with us. Could be good, could be bad, but look it up. And I think that's a great adjustment for you to get more listings. All right, everybody. Cheers. Happy Monday to you. Happy Valentine's Day, all you beautiful ladies this week. And you too, man. Don't forget. Okay. You guys have a great day. I appreciate it. All right. Bye for now.